It doesn't happen overnight, okay? They're not telling you about the previous 7 years of hustle, the debt, the sofa surfing, the sleepless nights, the relationship bust-ups, the tears, the tantrums, the family rifts. They're not telling you about all of that stuff. Now, there are some people who these days do. Alex Hormozy is one of them. Lewis Howes, Dan Coe. These are people that do talk about their vulnerabilities. But for the most part, when it comes to manifestation, when it comes to building your business, when it comes to healing, most people, most coaches aren't talking about the difficulties and the stuff that holds them back, right? They're talking about successes. And that's because that's sexy, all right? Success is sexy. Who doesn't want to be successful? Even people who say they're not interested in money, or most people, okay, a lot of people aren't. I'm not driven by money, but of course I'm interested in money. Of course I like having money. Of course I like earning what I'm worth, but it doesn't drive me. But even those people who say they're not interested in money, they are interested in success in some way, and success looks different to everyone. But you know, the shiny stuff is more sexy. So when you're on this journey, you've got to give yourself time to experiment. You've got to give yourself space to make mistakes. You've got to give yourself some time to get frustrated. It's okay to get frustrated about the challenges. Things are challenging. When you're moving forward, when you're growing, when you're stepping out from the person that you used to be into your purpose and the person that you are supposed to be, and when you start exploring what that is, you're going to face challenges, and it is going to get frustrating. You know, I spent 9 years of deep work before I saw big manifestations. I did start to see some of my active manifestations when I first started about 3 years ago, and it didn't take long, but I did forget about doing it, and some of the stuff that I tried to manifest, I tried lots of different methodologies, lots of different strategies. And what I can share with you is it's not down to the strategy, although I do have one that works, and I am going to tell you about that later on in the video. I do have one that works for me pretty much every time when I remember to do it. And now that I'm back in the habit, I'm manifesting more and more all of the time. Now, even if you don't have to be in consistent PMA, that's what my fiance uses that term, PMA, positive mental attitude. You don't have to be in consistent PMA. That's not healthy, all right? Let's be realistic. There are going to be some challenges. There are going to be times when you think, I can't be bothered to do this, or why am I doing this, or you know, it's too hard. There are going to be those times. There are going to be times where you're in deep, it feels like you're in deep despair and deep turmoil, and you know, you've had an argument with, you know, your best friend or your partner or your child, because you are changing. And it's difficult for not only you, but for the people around you. Some of them will love the fact that you're changing, and some of them won't want you to change. Some of them will want you to stay the same because it's comfortable for them, and also because they want what's best for you, but they don't necessarily know that what's best for you is for you to change and for you to grow. Now, when I first went on this journey, I was looking at building my business. I wanted to build myself so that I could build my business. That was my end goal. And after years of doing that, I now know that that was the wrong way round. But I had to go on that journey. And I used to beat myself up about not making thousands of pounds a week. And, you know, like some of the people that I'd surrounded myself with, I had these business coaches, and it was a big kind of collaboration of mentors and coaches. And there were lots of us coachees that, you know, we would come together regularly in London, and we we would learn and we'd talk about our successes and we would celebrate wins. And I was moving really, really slowly. Like a win for me would be like a £200 client, whereas a win for someone else is like £1.5 million client. And I would compare myself to those people, which is absolutely fucking ridiculous, because I'd been in business for like 6 months and they'd been in business for like 20 years. So, and they're completely different businesses. I was building, you know, a humble voice coaching practice, and you know, some of these, there was a guy there who was building skyscrapers, and a guy who was building schools for children with special educational needs, and doing amazing things. And I was just this little voice coach, as that's what I called myself, just this little voice coach. And I was like, how can I compete with them? How can I compare myself to them? And that was all wrong. That was all wrong. I wasn't supposed to be comparing myself to them. I was on my own journey. And even though a new client for me might have meant a £200 client for just a couple of weeks, or for 4 weeks, I was absolutely smashing it in my little business. You know, I was consistently fully booked for the 2 days that I was available for, because I was still working as a music lecturer in college, and then for the other 2 days a week I was building my business, working on my business. And I was doing really well, but because I was comparing myself to multi-millionaires, you know, who were sitting either on the next table to me or sometimes on the same table to me when we were at these events, I felt like I was shit. I felt like I was worthless. I felt like I wasn't doing enough. I felt like I wasn't enough. And if you're feeling like that, or there will be times when you feel like that, and when you do feel like that, just remind yourself of what you have done. And if you feel like you want to wallow in feeling a bit shit for a few hours, do it. I used to be like, I'm going to have a shit day today. I'm feeling shit. I'm going to allow myself to feel shit. But the point is not to let that become your mindset, to allow it to happen and allow yourself to feel those feelings, and then to move on and accept and thank those feelings for being there, because we need them as well, but then to take the next step and to move on. When I started Queens in Business with my co-founders, one of the reasons that I didn't always push my coachees, my delegates, as much as maybe one or two of the other co-founders who we were all coaching together, was that I remembered my journey, and my journey and your journey isn't the same as the next person. So there might be people, there were people who were really smashing it. There was a lady who made £1 million. She hit six figures in like 6 months, and then hit 7 figures, I think probably 4 months after that. And then there were people who had literally just started and were just taking their time to figure out what they wanted to do. Now, this doesn't even have to relate to business or career. It can be, you know, maybe you want to start a charity, or maybe you just want to take yourself and be yourself for a few months without worrying about anything else. So if you don't know what it is yet, that's okay. But I'm going to give you something. I'm going to give you a method that will help you to find out what that is. And I'm not going to get you to write down 100 things. You know, that's not really, that can help. But what I'm going to share with you works for me every single time, even when I try to resist it, okay? So just sit silently for 15 minutes. Turn your phone off, turn your devices off. If you have a ring buzzer or, you know, a doorbell, switch that off unless you're expecting somebody, okay? Do it when you're not expecting anyone. My phone's always on silent anyway, otherwise I'd lose my mind. Switch your phone off and just sit silently for 15 minutes. Take some deep breaths. Look at the inside of your eyelids. Clear your mind. Imagine a tranquil space or a beautiful space. And just allow something to pop up. Just allow your instinct to enable something to pop up. And what pops up It might be a word, it might be a feeling, it might be a colour, it might be a sound. You might see a scene or you might see a movie. Whatever it is, that's probably your purpose. Even if you feel like it's not, but it probably is. So sit in that. When it pops up for you, sit in it and imagine the feeling of when that is your normal, when that is your day-to-day. How would that make you feel? What would you be saying to yourself if that was your normal? How might your life change for the better if that was what you were doing in your day-to-day life? And that is what tells you what it is that you want to do, what your purpose is. Even if you're feeling resistance to it, if you're feeling resistance to it, that's an even bigger indicator that that is what's right for you. That's what tells you where to go. And you don't need to know the how. You don't need to figure out what to do next. You don't need to figure out who's going to help you. You don't need to know any of that. Just sit. Let it pop up. Go with it. Imagine the feeling of that being your day-to-day. And for more divine insights, watch this video that's going to pop up around about here. Take care, stay divine.